taught and instilled Marxist legal philosophy to those who would listen, especially students and his colleague lecturers. In those days, one of these doors would have been Kwesi Botwe's office, shared probably with another lecturer in the same room or in another room. At that time, Kwesi Botwe belonged to the left side of the university's senior staff, and he may have been in great company in those days, for he had with him Akil Akpasoya, later to be Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Dr. Martin Owusu, the famed actor and teacher, Kwame Ahoy, later to be Minister for Local Government, Modibo Okran, later to be Supreme Court Judge, and significantly, J.E.A. Mills, later to be Vice President and President. And if we talk about Kwesi's student days with his Marxism, of course, one of his great contemporaries would have been definitely Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a colleague student who later became Attorney General, Foreign Minister, and now President of Ghana. All of these important men formed part of the university's socialist leftist thinking. But it must have been here in this house, located just from the BAM library down the roundabout and towards the Athletic Oval. It must have been here that Kwesi Botwe was won over to join the PNDC. So, whose house was that? This is the home, as it then was, of the Marxist law lecturer, the younger Chikata, Chachu, his older brother Fui, also a lecturer in law at the Faculty of Law, and their friend Evio Dankwa, and their uncle Kojo Chikata, who is the eternal Marxist. All may have come to this home to actively recruit for JJ and Captain Chikata's coup d'etat, or as they called it in those days, their revolution.
Very dedicated, very honest, very distinguished Ghanaian. Became a leading political figure in our country at a very difficult period in the history of Ghana, but carried himself with great dignity and elegance. And I think that the outpouring of grief that there is in the nation today is a good testimony to how Ghanaians valued his contribution to the growth of our nation. I had the opportunity to talk to him quite recently. And it never occurred to me that we're going to be in this position. But that is what the Almighty has for each one of us. He has a time and a place to call us one by one. Fortunately, it's Kwesi Botwe's time.
So this house has a lot of history. But why were the meetings in this house crucial to the formation of the PNDC and Kwesi Botwe's own participation in it? Justice D.F. Anand's book recounts on page 51 and 52. But before we go to the book, let's understand what were the ideological differences that competed for the soul of the PNDC. First, it was the left on one side. That included Kwesi Botwe and Chachu Chikata, and the June 4 movement on the other side. They were made up of soldiers and pragmatists who were also very thirsty for what they called justice against politicians. And yet, among the PNDC, there was the UP group from the United Party. Most of them were quite calm at the beginning of the PNDC. They included P.V. Obeng, Justice D.F. Annan himself, Dr. Obed Asamoah, Alhaji Mahama Idrisu, Mr. A.A. Munufie, to mention but a few. So all of this ideological competition was going on in the mind and the soul of the PNDC, and definitely in the mind and the soul of the PNDC chairman, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, as he then was. Let's get back to Justice D.F. Annan's book, page 51 and 52, in a book that is written actually by Kwame Ahoy and Nana Atudazi, two key players of the whole PNDC episode. Justice Annan's book begins on page 51 by describing who were the New Democratic Movement, the NDM, and it's as follows. He says, the New Democratic Movement, made up largely of academics drawn from the University of Ghana, was at one time quite dominant. It appeared to be in charge of the PNDC's political orientation. Some of his members were Dr. Kwesi Botwe, later to be appointed PNDC Secretary for Finance, who still remains Ghana's longest serving finance minister. Also included Professor Akil Akpasoya, who became the leader of the PNDC team for the VALCO negotiations and later became Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and who is also currently a member of the Council of State at the time the book was written. Mr. Kwame Kaikari, who was appointed PNDC Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. This is Kwame Kaikari, who is also in charge of Media Foundation for West Africa. And then there was also Mr. Guzi Tano, later to form the National Reform Party and contest the 2000 presidential elections, and also Mr. E.T. Mensah, a University of Ghana staff member who was later to become Minister of Youth and Sports in the first and second governments of the Fourth Republic. So that was the NDM. Page 51 continues to tell an interesting story, and the last but one paragraph reads as follows. In subsequent ideological clashes with the elements from the June 4 movement, with a largely military and militant working class base, the June 4 movement was perceived to have the ear of Chairman Rawlings and appeared to have overcome the NDM ideologues. In the event, the radical ideological elements of the PNDC system were dropped in government reshuffles, and moderate to middle elements were brought into the government, particularly in May 1983, obviously to change the political orientation of the PNDC. Unquote. The central issue from the quotation from page 51 of Justice D.F. Annan's book is that when it came to choosing the moderates in the ideological race, Dr. Kwesi Botwe was thought to be one of them, because quite clearly the left wing lost the ideological battle of JJ's heart, but Kwesi Botwe was retained in that mix and actually began to lead IMF negotiations. Now, how did this happen? Back to the book on page 52. So here goes the last paragraph of page 52. A series of meetings with the cadre leadership and various consultations on the revolutionary front threw up the dire need for caution. Yet Finance Secretary Dr. Kwesi Botwe, himself an NDM classic, along with other like-minded economic gurus, had to wrestle with the obvious choice. Jerry John Rawlings, as chairman of the PNDC and as a pragmatist with little fixed political positions, must have had little hesitation beyond the normal caution required in a journey into the unknown. Consultations with the Bretton Woods institution started on a very quiet note for obvious reasons. The revolutionary left, of which Kwesi Botwe was originally a member, reacted uneasily to the hobnobbing with the Bretton Woods institutions, which they believed to be the veritable bastions of the capitalist ideology. However, the larger interest of the country was paramount to Jerry Rawlings, who had little interest for the socialist ideological orientation of the Kwame Nkrumah era. In the ensuing conflict over the direction of economic policy, J.J. Rawlings and his core advisors outflanked a slow-footed and doubting PNDC and started a proper appeal to the larger Ghanaian populace. So, it was on this basis that the left-wing Leninist Dr. Kwesi Botwe was made to lead negotiations with the IMF at that time. Former Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay also captures the same story in his book on page 306 and 307 as follows. I quote, "The New Democratic Movement, the NDM, sprang up from a group of Marxist-oriented intellectuals in the University of Ghana around 1980. They included Dr. Emmanuel Hansen, Mr. Chachu Chikata, Mr. Fui Chikata, Dr. Kwesi Botwe, Mr. Kwame Nahoy, and Mr. Asiedu Renchi. Though originally socialist in its orientation, the New Democratic Movement became the most supportive body when the PNDC battled with this extreme left to introduce the Economic Recovery Program. It did not take long for J.J. Rawlings to cleverly take control of the NDM through the fluid maneuvers of the Chikates. It was at this juncture that the NDM turned to support the IMF Structural Adjustment Program, which moved the PNDC towards the right. It is worthy to recollect that this NDM had condemned Dr. Liman's IMF policies and criticized the increase in petrol prices in 1980 as being, quote, lack of concern for the real suffering of our already impoverished people, unquote. So, for Professor Michael Quay, the NDM, Kwesi Botwe's organization, was taken over by Flight Lieutenant Rawlings through the fluid maneuverings of the Chikata brothers, Chachu, the younger Chikata, and Fui, the older Chikata, both of them lawyers, both of them law lecturers, both of them Marxist. So all of this will be the first part of Dr. Kwesi Botwe's political career in government.
Very dedicated, very honest, very distinguished Ghanaian. Became a leading political figure in our country at a very difficult period in the history of Ghana, but carried himself with great dignity and elegance. And I think that the outpouring of grief that there is in the nation today is a good testimony to how Ghanaians valued his contribution to the growth of our nation. I had the opportunity to talk to him quite recently. And it never occurred to me that we're going to be in this position. But that is what the Almighty has for each one of us. He has a time and a place to call us one by one. Fortunately, it's Kwesi Botwe's time.
How did Kwesi Botwe then leave government? In 1995, as Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Kwesi Botwe was responsible for promulgating the value-added tax system. It was a new tax policy that actually drew out hundreds and thousands of Ghanaians in protest under a famed Kumi Preko matches that turned the stability of the country on that day upside down. Kwesi Botwe spoke to the Associated Press about his views on the matter.
And the point is that the VAT replaced a sales tax law that was narrower in its coverage, and which also before the 1995 budget was at 15%. So we are reviewing the situation with a view to accommodating some of the concerns, correcting some of the unintended side effects of the VAT, but we will do so in ways that don't prejudice the stability of the macroeconomic environment.
But the ramifications of the demonstration was so devastating that Kwesi Botwe's position almost became untenable. But the real story about Kwesi Botwe's exit is still up in the air. A lot of the rumors pointed to a fractious relationship between Kwesi Botwe, guess who, and Chachu Chikata, the same man whose house he had been, the same man who he had formed and worked with under the NDM, the same man who had had the socialist and Leninist and Marxist ideological conversations with, and the same man who actually really took him into the PNDC. It was widely reported in those days by the Ghanaian Chronicle and other newspapers that Dr. Botwe had insisted that the expenditure of the organization that Chachuchi Kata led, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, the GNPC, should come within the ambit and context and supervision of the Ministry of Finance. It appeared that Chachuchi Kata was not quite happy with that, and you can understand, because in those days Ghana was up in oil exploration business. The GNPC were sure that they could find oil, and they spent a lot of money exploring. Flight Lieutenant Rawlings was concerned about the closeness to our oil find and therefore supported GNPC. Dr. Botwe did not like that. He wanted the accounting to be transparent. It is widely reported and widely believed that this is the reason why Kwesi Botwe was shown the door in the PNDC. Before Kwesi Botwe had been shown the door, another very powerful PNDC name from the UP stock, PV Obeng, had been shown the door earlier. It was widely believed that PV must have fallen out with JJ Rawlings on his views about how the 1992 political system should be promulgated. It is believed that PV and Kwesi and others favored a political system that will have PV Obeng run as Prime Minister, whilst Flight Lieutenant Rawlings will be the executive president. As it turned out, JJ was not happy with that. He wanted an executive presidency where he will be president, as we do have under the 1992 constitution. So PV was the first to go. Later on, Kwesi Botwe also left. But right now, here in Ghana, we have lost all three men. First it was PV, next is President Rawlings, and now Kwesi Botwe. Well, God knows best. But as they say, once a politician, always a politician. So after Kwesi Botwe left government, he was elevated to the senior staff at the glorious Harvard University, where he taught for many years. But sometime in 2002, politics called again, and Kwesi Botwe came back to Ghana to enter the race. Which race was that? It was the race to choose the NDC flag bearer for the 2004 elections. Professor Mills had been defeated in the 2000 elections, and there was another election. Some NDC people thought Professor Mills had lost the election because he lacked luster, and that Kwesi Botwe was a better candidate. So Kwesi Botwe came in to challenge J.A. Mills, but Kwesi has still fallen out with Rawlings. Rawlings threw his weight behind Professor Mills. Together with Mrs. Rawlings, they supported Professor Mills. A lot of the party members went behind Professor Mills, and Dr. Botwe was soundly beaten at the Congress that was held in Legon amidst a little bit of violence. But that was Kwesi's second incarnation into politics through the ballot box. It is widely believed that Kwesi Botwe could have had a third incarnation into politics. But when did this occur? This, according to the story, occurred in 2012. It is said that when Professor Mills died, there were elements in the NDC who felt that John Dramani Mahama, the vice president of the day, was not particularly ready for presidency, and that if the NDC should sustain and maintain power, they needed a Kwesi Botwe to come in and deliver the election victory for the NDC. So some felt that the NDC should go to Congress, Kwesi Botwe should present himself as the candidate, and he will be voted for, and he will become the presidential candidate of the NDC in the elections that was 6 months away. The view that won the day anyway said that President Mahama is being well marketed, he's very well known, he's very well liked, and that the sympathy votes from the death of Professor Mills will inure to the benefit of the NDC only if it was John Dramani Mahama who was on the ballot. So that view won, and that ended Kwesi Botwe's third incarnation into elective politics. As fate would have it, President Mahama did win the election and appointed Dr. Kwesi Botwe as the chairman of Ghana Gas, and later on also appointed him as the chairman of the NDPC. When Akufo-Addo became president, Dr. Botwe graciously handed over the portfolio at the National Development Planning Commission, the NDPC. After that, Kwesi has not been seen in public life except the last lecture he gave back at Legon, back at the economics department, where he discussed the state of the economy. Kwesi will go down as a very respected opinion in national politics.
A very dedicated, a very honest, very distinguished Ghanaian. Became a leading political figure in our country at a very difficult period in the history of Ghana. but carried himself with great dignity and elegance. And I think that the outpouring of grief that there is in the nation today is a good testimony to how Ghanaians valued his contribution to the growth of our nation.
It's very sad to hear that Dr. Kwesi Botwe has passed to eternal glory. He did not leave us with a book. Most likely, he was writing. So we rely on the family to produce a book. Same situation occurred with Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. He left us very sad and without a book. On that note, congratulations to you, Dr. Obed Asamoah. He's left us with a book. Congratulations, Professor Michael Quay. You've left us with a book. Congratulations, Mr. Kwame Nahoy. You have also left us with a book. I believe that Mr. Chikata and all the important people are writing a book. Rest in peace, Kwesi Botwe, until we meet again. All right, good evening. Welcome back to the show. Thank you very much for your time. And Kwesi Botwe goes to eternal rest on Thursday at the State House. I believe that all Ghanaians, politicians, members of parliament have all been invited by President Akufo-Addo, who is leading the burial service for the late the minister, longest serving minister for finance and economic planning. We'll take some text messages on them. But I'd like to talk about this. This is a story that goes on social media. People have been sending it to me, isn't it? People have sent it to me and said, do you want to sue him or not? I'm not sure whether I want to do that. But it says that Paul Adumachi built a mansion in 6 months after he was appointed board chairman of the Kotoka Airport Company. This guy was caught buying Christmas tree for 88K. And with comma, I can boldly say he built the mansion using the money. Okay, well, the lawyers will look at it and determine whether this guy needs to be sued or not. But I'm sure a lot of you have seen, a lot of you know the story. The fact of the matter is that the story is untrue, completely untrue, total falsity. But you see, some of these people, they think we are like them. You know, they don't understand that what we are doing is a service and an occupation. It's not business. So they're not doing journalism. They just set up some online platform, thanks to democracy and online, and then they insult people every day. You know, they take important people and insult them so that they get attention, and that's the kind of journalism they do, and they are always doing business with it, mercenary kind of behavior, and they think that that's what we do. No, we don't do that. We are called to a service and to a career and to an occupation for which we have been prepared. So we do our work. So the building they are talking about, I was living there in 2012. In Teshinungwa, everybody knows that. 2012, 10 years ago, I've been living there for 10 years. And then they put a story and say that he bought a house in 6 months. What do you even say? Built his mansion in 6 months. In 6 months, in 2021, 22. That's false. I mean, that's not true. I've been staying there from 2012, December 2012. When I went to John Mohammed's inauguration in 2013, that's where I went from. So I've been staying there since December 2012. By the time, it was there that I was when I was told that Professor Mills had unfortunately passed on 24th July 2012. I was already on the ground, and I have been staying there for 10 years. You know, so it's not true. But that's the nature of these people. You see, the guy, some guy, something, he writes, I don't even know whether that's his real name, but there's a name there and a lady's photograph there, so I'm not sure. But they're going to look at it. They pulled out his social media. They've analyzed it. The lawyers are looking at it. He may be receiving a letter very soon, because this kind of thing must stop. You see, if you come in as a mercenary, you're just coming to do social media and insult people, you can do that. It's okay. It's freedom. It's allowed. You just don't have to cross the law. What we are doing is a service, and it's an occupation, and it's a career. We are working as news reporters. That's what we're doing. We are working as opinion-based journalists. That's what we are doing. We're working as a right-wing reporter, which is what I am. There are left-wing reporters. That's okay. No problem about that. But we are working. We are not doing mercenary work and set up some online, and then we take this person, insult him. Take this person, insult him. Take this person, abuse him. Take all the important people in Ghana, abuse them. And then you get attention, and you think that is work. No. That's why they would think that you have built it in 6 months. That's why they would think like that. Because they don't understand how you can create an industry out of your work. They don't understand it. All they know is politician, tell NDC politician, insult this one. John Mahama's opponent, insult him. This or that, insult this one. Then insult this one. Then you come and sit, and they have some odious names for their programs. And then they go and continue like that. That's why it's not sustainable. You can't even tell which day and which day they have their show. They don't have a day for the show. They don't have a timetable for the show. You know that we come on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've been coming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Wednesdays for that long. But they don't have, so Wednesday they have something bad and they show up. Online, then you get an alert. X is online. He comes. Oh, Ghana, this person is a fool. This guy is stupid. This guy. That's not work. So if you ask them, when are you next coming on the show? They don't know. They don't have a show. These kinds of people, that's what they do. So we just want to encourage the young people that it's not about that. It's about industry. It's about service. It's about career. And you can create an industry. And so because of how they are, they think everybody is like them. But as I said, for those who have been calling me that you need to take this guy to the court, we are looking at it. He may be receiving letters very soon. And because what he said is manifestly false, it's patently false, it's untrue, the untruthfulness of what he said is manifestly verifiable. So it's untrue. That property they come to the house, take pictures and put online and say that you have been staying there when I've been staying there for 10 years. Okay, so that's okay. We'll leave them. I'm not in a hurry to do a court action, Sorry, I needed my drink. I'm not in a hurry to do a court action. But I've been told that it's not just about me. It's about setting a certain standard for publication online so that people will see that they cannot just go online and write something that they either know is not true or they have no basis to believe that it is true. And then they use that to defame, malign people and bring the people in the eyes of disrepute. That's very terrible. So for that reason, we just might oblige the cause for a legal action, unless between now and then this candidate is able to say that what he said is not true. But if you are not hiding in America and you are in Ghana and you join the chorus of something that's not true, we will sue you, and then you have to come and answer in the court. We'll look at that later on. Okay, this is Good Evening Ghana still. We're still waiting for the big NDC story. Let's see what text messages we have as we get ready to give you the full analysis of what we found from the Accra Sports Stadium, the outcomes thereof last Saturday. Okay, let me start with you, Eunice. What message do you have?
May his soul rest in peace. We will miss you, from Brenda Bannerman. Isaac Ajiga says, Paul, good evening. Yes, sir.
Oh, I see. Okay, you know who Brenda Bannerman is, by the way? Brenda Bannerman is the sister-in-law of Dr. Boche. Dr. Boche's wife, Wendy Bannerman, is Brenda Bannerman's younger sister.
Oh.
So we are sorry, Brenda. Thank you for watching anyway.
A condolence, Brenda. And then from Isaka Jiga, he says, Paul, good evening. I admire your style of journalism, but in my view, those elected by the NDC delegates are comedians. Watching you live inside WA. Frederick Ampontua says, may his soul rest well. Nana Wachi Adam says, Ghana BBC Paul, thanks for good work. And then lastly from Felix Vigno, he says, the best program. Thank you, Paul. Mine, not the empty barrels. Annette?
So, coming through from Rafat Hussein Guno, he says, Dr. Boche was a political colossus, a great politician by all standards. I grew to love him more when Dr. Mohamed Baumia gave a lecture on the economy, and he came out to acknowledge that and declined to offer a rebuttal. God bless his departed soul. Coming from Nana Boachi Yadom, Paul, good work, thanks to you and your crew. Efo Nebuchadnezzar says someone should tell General Mosquito that Batakari does not collate results. Okoto Rasta Mauli, you are very good in journalism. Bennett Dansu says, Paul Adomotri, gradually the Rawlings cadre are becoming extinct from Ghana's politics. Sad though. Over to you, Karen.
Okay, Paul, currently you are the best current affairs journalist in Ghana so far. God bless you for the hard work. We, the young ones, are really learning a lot from you. Evans from Kaswa. May the soul of blessed Kwesi Botre rest in the bosom of his creator, Kabiru Adam Yeji. Wow, rare footage of an NDC meeting. Ernest Clinton. Over to you.
Hussein Gunu says, G4C won against JM and Aduna C4C, and for all the stiff opposition of bigwigs of the NDC in the northern region, Chairman Azoka won. He continues, we know the national executives. The leader was the general secretary when we won the greater margins. We will achieve that again in 2024. He says, let's break the 8 together. This is from Boon Malik Idrisu from Efiakumba and Takrade. He says, some of the elected NDC leadership have a credibility problem. Still, the alternative is scary. Right. And from Aaron Babako Kokomisa, he says, the NDC is the largest opposition political party within our jurisdiction currently, and has been in political power in and out after 1992, after we embraced democratic governance and introduced the 1992 Constitution to take its full force, and is one political party noted with projects, i.e. E-blocks, hospitals, the expansion of the airports, and to some extent, they deserve some credit about how far we have reached in terms of democratic governance, i.e. economic development. He continues, my point is that although the NDC is the major political party currently and also a strong brand within our jurisdiction, I think that one, the NDC must not in any way get involved in any form of vigilantism in the name of protesting or defending a particular interest that will mar what our fathers have told over the years. NDC is one political party that is noted with a highly youthful population bracket. I asked all young adults within this bracket, most especially within the Zongo areas, not to involve in any form of violence. In all things, let us remember where we are coming from as one people. Back to you, Paul.
All right, great. So we are ready now for the story. It's 10 minutes to the top of the hour. 10 o'clock, we're going to give you our analysis from the NDC Congress. Let's take our first commercial break, though, and then after that, we start straight away. This Good Evening Ghana is live. It's break time.
The world has gathered for football's greatest showpiece, and Betway is giving you the chance to win on the cup in Qatar. Score free entries to win a share of 3 million Ghana cedis across the tournament. Enter our daily draws to win a guaranteed 30,000 Ghana cedis every match day. From the group stages to the final, it's a full month of incredible action. Only at betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
There are days when you think, whoa, today I've earned it. So order a Global. Days when plans run longer. Or days when you can't control everything. Oh yes, Global. You order, we deliver.
A state-of-the-art facility built with your family needs in mind. A medical center positioned for all your fertility problems and other diseases. Medimosis Clinic and Prostate Center. Our goal is to help our patients achieve and maintain optimal health. We have fully functional OPD laboratories in all our branches. Do you have problems urinating? Medimosis is the ultimate solution. Our ProstaCure X capsules and ProstaCure Herbal Tea treat prostate problems. Afromosis capsules gives you maximum performance, and for the ladies, Femacure X capsules solves all your menstrual problems. Locate Medimosis Clinic and Prostate Center at Adenta Barrier near the traffic light, Ashaman, Ajekojo, Kumasi, Ahinima Kokobing, and in Accra, Ministries after the Ghana Highways Yard. Call 0244 068 447. We accept National Health Insurance card and all other private insurance card. Medimosis Clinic and Herbal Center, your ultimate solution for prostate problems.
Okay, so it's time now for us to begin our analysis on the touch screen about the National Democratic Congress issue. So what we're going to do tonight, and as I said, we're going to share with you some of it, not all of it. We're going to share with you some of it, okay? We're going to start with looking at this, what has happened. You know, so what the NDC has done in terms of the outcomes. Now we are at the outcomes analyzing it. What the NDC did is that Johnson Asiedu Nkatia has been elected as chairman. Okay, let me begin the series properly. Let's go for the editorial montage. Ghana, we now have freedom. It's been a while since we shared a Good Evening Ghana opinion with you, so I wanted the editorial montage as a Good Evening Ghana editorial. But since they stole the editorial from us, everybody does editorial, something news editorial, so we call it now Good Evening Ghana opinion, isn't it? Okay, great. Now, what the NDC did on Saturday is to give a clear signal one way or the other. So what the NDC did was to elect radicals. That's what they did. The delegates conference, its turnout and its outcomes, elected radicals for the party. Now, we're going to look at the historical outcomes of elections in Ghana, limiting ourselves tonight to the presidential election and determine whether radicalism is good this way or is bad that way. In politics, it depends on the time, the situation, and the circumstance. Radicalism that may be good today may not be good tomorrow. Radicalism that may not be good tomorrow may be good today. So when we finish the analysis, you can then put it in the box and make a determination whether radicalism will work for the NDC 2024 or not. And then we can also help you with that. So Johnson Asiedu Nkatia is an ultimate radical. What does radicalism mean? Now, a radical for a party just means that his politics, his ethos, appeals to the core members of the party. Now, every political party, really every organization has its radicals and its moderates. So MPP has radicals and moderates. The GOP in America has radicals and moderates. The Tory party in England has radicals and moderates. Every party has radicals and moderates. Okay, so the radical people in the NDC are those who appeal to the core NDC. The radical people in the MPP are those who appeal to the core MPP. That means if it's radical MPP, it is unlikely that he'll be able to convince a neutral voter or a voter that votes one way or the other every time to be able to vote for the MPP. A radical MPP person cannot convince a neutral person to vote for the MPP. MPP needs to rely on moderates to do that. Same with NDC. So as is Johnson Asiedu Nkatia, so is Chairman Wontumi. Both of them are radical, neck deep in the belly of their political parties and philosophy. So Asiedu Nkatia is appealing to NDC radical. It looks like if you look across board, the NDC elected all radical people. Let's go through. Johnson Asiedu Nkatia, congratulations to him. Yamin is another very, very radical NDC person. Now, Yamin is actually, his opponents even think that he's violent. I mean, we don't know that whether he's violent or not, but his opponents point to the fact that in 2016 he set up the Hawks and all of that. Now, who is Yamin? Yamin is a guy who was part of FONCA. What is FONCA? FONCA is Friends of Nana Kunedu Agyeman Rawlings. Now, this was formed in 2011, I believe, or 2010, 2011, at the time when Mrs. Rawlings decided to compete against Professor Mills for the flag bearership of the NDC. It was a very major epochal period in the history of the NDC when Flight Lieutenant Rawlings' position had become very nervous. His wife, dear wife and a big founder of the party, was now getting out of the party to set up her own party and to challenge Rawlings. Yamin was one of those who supported Nana Kunedu Agyeman Rawlings together with Owusu Bempah now at Ghana Gas and the Kofi Adams, all the FONCA. That's where Yamin actually came from. Okay, so when the FONCA thing didn't work, President Mahama, who was at that time vice president, I think sort of, sorry about that, sort of co-opted Yamin to come in. So that's really Yamin's background. He's that radical. He thinks of the party and he thinks of war. That's him. He also is in the belly of the NDC. So coming out of FONCA through to become a John Mahama ally and a John Mahama favorite. So he was kind of Rawlings, Mrs. Rawlings, and then he's turned around. His opponents also largely blame him for the division in Ashanti region that occasioned the NDC's defeat in 2016, because he became very powerful in Ashanti region. He was Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports during the World Cup 2014, all of that. So they put Yamin there to be the national organizer. That's almost like a call to real action bordering even on violence, because Yamin set up the Hawks. Okay, so that's another radical, confirmed. George Opariado, whose election actually went to court. There's a lot of confusion about that, because he actually won the election by 25 votes in Cape Coast the week before last. After that, a legal action has been taken against him, and it appears that a court injunction had been obtained from the Ashaman High Court. However, he was sworn in on Saturday night by the National Democratic Congress executive in the presence of John Dramani Mahama, the same man they said he doesn't like him, etc., etc. So George Oparato's matter is yet to be fully discussed. But if you look at the context, you will consider George Oparato not so radical. Or how would you consider him? Because he grew up in a situation where he has friends across board and he's able to engage with other people outside the party. Maybe that's why he's not fitting into this particular executive. Maybe that's why they want him out. He doesn't really fit the radical brand. Okay, let's move on. Fifi Kwete, complete radical. Very clever man, I have to say. Very intelligent man, very clever man. But he's a die-in-the-wool radical. In fact, since he won the election on Saturday, if you have listened to his interviews on City FM and Joy FM yesterday, City TV, I should say, and Joy TV yesterday, he uses words like, every rat knows that it was John Mahama and NDC that killed Dumso. And he's very vociferous in his outburst. You have to give him one thing. His loyalty to the NDC is big. And here on this program, we have an example about it. Many years ago, there was a program here, and the NDC rep did not show up. Okay, and then Fifi Kwete, who lived at least an hour drive away from our studios in Laboni, watching the program, decided to sit in his car. I still remember the car, the wine color car. He drove it to our office and he insisted that he wanted to be part of the program. We accepted and he became part of the program and he articulated quite well. So in terms of his loyalty to the NDC and, if you like, his dislike for the MPP, that's very obvious. Fifi Kwete also was the propaganda secretary of the party. And so his strength in communication is quite well known. In 2008, he set up what the MPP calls full of lies. His setting the record straight agenda. They bastardized Akufo-Addo, said all sorts of things about him that were not true in 2008. It was all led by Fifi Kwete. The propaganda seemed to have worked because in 2008 election, the NDC eventually won it. And if you look at the results of the election, you will see that there was a lot of push for the NDC to win that election. And people like Fifi Kwete gained credit for that, for the setting the record straight agenda. So he's a radical. Remember, what's a radical? A radical is one who cannot convince another person to vote for his party. He appeals to the core of his party members. All right, let's move on. Sami Gyamfi, also, you see, he's a radical, complete radical. And he also appeals to the core of the MPP support. So you're going to have a group of radicals who are now going to lead the NDC. Now, let's give you some analysis of Ghana's political outcomes of election results, and then you will see whether radical is good for the NDC or radical is good for the MPP, which we are discussing NDC tonight, though. So we are making the analysis that NDC's outcome of Saturday's elections was to elect radicals. What are the ramifications thereof of electing these radicals? We'll pick up some of those who were not elected, like Elvis Efiri-Ankra, and discuss what his role would have been if he had been elected. We'll also talk about Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. If he had been elected, how will the colorization, if you like, the sociological or socio-political colorization of the outcomes, how it will look like. So this is the map of 1992's election outcome. So in 1992, there were 10 regions in Ghana. Fly Lieutenant Rawlings, leading the NDC, won 57% of the elections, total 57%. Now, the NDC won in everywhere shaded green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Of the, there were 10, so 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and where's the 9? Volta region is the 9. So NDC won 9 regions, MPP won 1 region, which is Ashanti region. MPP used to say that they won regional capitals. But with this kind of map, the NDC with Rawlings won 57% of the vote, and the MPP won a little over 40%. With 1 region. Okay, let's move on and see progressively what has been happening in presidential elections. All right, now this 1996, same kind of scenario occurs. In 1996, the same scenario occurs. Fly Lieutenant Rawlings wins about the same percentage, 57 point something, a little bit lower. The NDC wins, MPP wins 40%. From a core support base, they are drawing 40%. All right. 2000, the color completely changes. So even then, I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So MPP wins 6 regions, NDC wins 4. As you can see, as the map is showing, there's a growing MPP group, and they will attribute it to all kinds of transparent ballot box and all of that. That's the attribution they make. But the fact is that in 2000, the MPP group expanded. So with this, the MPP wins the first round of the election 48% by winning 6 regions. Okay, first round of election. Let's move on to 2004. 2004, the MPP by and large maintains that core group. And as it's turning around, Eastern Ashanti Bonohafo is becoming the core group of the MPP. Okay, keep your eye on 2004. Have a look at it, soak it in, and let's go to 2008, and our analysis will begin over there. All right. Okay, so here's 2008. This is the big story. The MPP wins 2 regions and actually wins the presidential election, leading by 100,000, needing 25,000 to win after winning 2 regions. So I'm building up the story. So from 2008's map, and I'll pick up the other map so you see, what MPP needs to do to win is to have radical people to appeal to their core base, because it will appear that with their core base, they can win the election. With the NDC core base, can they win the election, or do they need a little bit more? When you look at that, then you make a determination whether electing leaders in the core, radical core, or electing leaders in the moderates is better or not. But you can also divide them. You can have your chairman radical, general secretary moderates. It depends on what the party is looking for. The reason why people like Chairman Wontumi continue to win elections in the MPP is that the MPP identifies that as far as they are concerned, they need to get out their core vote to win any election. Once they have their core vote, they will cross the 50% plus 1. That's what you saw in 2008. With 2 elections, 2 regions out of 10, NDC won. Professor Mills had won 8 regions, and he was still trailing Nana Akufo-Addo by 100,000 votes in an election that MPP believed they did not perform well. You need to get that. In an election that MPP believed they did not perform, and I've interviewed Kofor and others who have talked about the performance of 2008, that it could have been better, etc. They were divided. They had 17 parliamentary candidates running as independent candidates all over the country, all over the place. There was a big division from the 17 candidates who contested the election. So in a divided MPP in 2008, winning 2 regions in the presidential ballot, they were leading by 100,000. So the MPP had learned since then that we always have to have a group of people who are in our core. Okay, now let's go back and look at the 2008 NDC group, those who were running the party. And it was Johnson Asiedu Nkatia, and I believe the chairman, Wayo say they call him, Kobena J. Okay, now who is Kobena J? Kobena J is an NDC moderate. Kobena J is a UP guy. So let's get back to the story, the documentary we showed you ahead of the Congress. So Rawlings and his cohorts had all accepted that the chairmanship of the NDC should always go to the UP, so that their chairman will be that kind of person who can talk to people outside the core PNDC, NDC group, so that they can win elections. That's the philosophy of Rawlings and Co. That's why Isifu Ali and A.A. Munufi were chairman at the beginning. They were chairman for 10 years. Both of them are UP people, that is MPP people, who have become NDC, and they have friends all over, and they are seen not as core PNDC cadre people, but they are seen as moderates. That was the arrangement that they were doing then. Now in 2008, Johnson Asiedu Nkatia, the radical, was the general secretary of the party, and Kobena J, who had been a member of parliament for the Popular Front Party, was the chairman. Kobena J, you will say, is the guy who can talk to other people. And that is why Kobena J was made majority leader at some point. In 1998-99, when there was a lot of pressure on the NDC group in parliament, because J.H. Mensah and his minority were giving them a lot of hassle, the NDC under Rawlings decided to change the leadership of the party in parliament and have Kobena J there, so that, being a former PFP person, seeing J.H. Mensah on the other side, they will be able to judge in a certain way. So this map shows you that. Now, what happens in NDC selections 2008? The candidature of NDC selections in 2008, Professor Mills and John Dramani Mahama, at that time, both of them will be said to be moderates of the NDC. So I'm bringing you to how come that 2008 was won in these circumstances. NDC had represented themselves in a mix of radical and moderate at the helm of affairs. So Wayose, who is chairman, Kobena J, is a moderate. Johnson Asiedu Nkatia is a radical, and he was appealing to the core party, and Wayose was appealing to the broader group outside the party to accept President Mahama and President Mills. And President Mahama and President Mills themselves were not said to be core NDC people, particularly John Mahama, the running mate. He came onto the ticket because his supporters felt that it is important that we present candidates who have open arms to the rest of the world. Give me the photograph of John Mahama and President Mills, and then I can illustrate that point. So So yes, that's what happened. So this is President Mahama and President Mills. Now, both men on the 2008 ticket were not thought to be radical NDC people. They were thought to be moderate. Particularly John Mahama was thought to be very moderate, and that he could accept people could run to him who were not NDC. Same with Professor Mills. It was thought that people could run to him who were not NDC. And how did it happen? When Professor Mills became president, he made appointments of people like Kobna Dufo and others who were not thought to be members of the core Keda NDC. What did Professor Mills do? He also brought on board, at that time, he was able to go out of himself to bring on board people who had fallen out of the party, because with the NDC, you need to amalgamate all the minds and hearts and support to be able to win the presidential elections. With the MPP, they need to appeal to their core support base. If they can do that successfully and there are no internal quibbles in their party, most likely they have the numbers to win. But that will also reflect the global situation of right-wing and left-wing political parties. In many of the established democracies, you will see that the right wing, if they're able to get their base out, they win the election. The reason why Biden had won the election in 2020 was that the Republican Party was divided. Whenever the Republican Party is united around one candidate, just sweep the election out. They always win because they have the numbers to do so. The Democratic Party either must use a superstar candidate or they must benefit from something that is dividing the Republican Party. Now, when you look at the history of the Democratic Party in America, you will see, apart from Biden in recent times, they have always fielded what you call a superstar candidate, perhaps Biden and Carter. But if you look at their big stories, Kennedy in 1960, Obama, Clinton, these are superstar candidates. And that's how they have been winning the elections in America most of the time. Superstar candidates, moderate candidates, and you have to have, or you must have some confusion in the Republican Party, or a combination of all of these factors will put the left-wing party into office. So it's very similar in Ghana. So in 2008, you had these two men, both of whom were thought as radical. Okay, move on to the 2016 map, and then let's look at the analysis. Move on to the 2016 map, and then we'll deal with it. So they're going to get us, they're moving the map forward, and they're going to the 2016 map, and we will understand from the 2016 why this analysis is important. So 2012 was the next one. 12, yes, correct. Give me 2012. Okay, so here is 2012 again. In 2012, John Dramani Mahama wins a first round election. Of course, MPP will say 2012 was this and that because the court said this and that. Fair enough, but we can analyze the data anyway. It still fits into our analysis. So here is Akufo-Addo again, on the MPP again. In 2012, winning 2 regions, John Mahama winning 8 regions out of 10, but winning the elections only marginally. John Mahama won 50% point something, very marginally. But if you look at a 10-region country and you have won 8 regions, you should be having a resounding victory. You should not be having a marginal victory. Never mind that it's a majority vote of 50+1, but it's marginal, you see. Now, even when your opponent is winning 2 regions, so that emphasizes the point that with the MPP, you need to appeal to your core support. If you can get your core support working, you win the election. Let's move on to 2016 and see what happened in 2016's elections, and then we can come back and talk about the nature of the MPP, of the NDC list now. So this is 2016's elections. Okay, so in 2016, the MPP move up and they add Central Region, Greater Accra Region, Bono Ahafo Region, and guess what happens? With MPP winning 5 regions out of the 10, they get a whooping 1 million difference of the votes. NDC wins 8 regions out of 10, they are winning marginally or they are even losing. MPP wins 6 regions, they've cleaned it up. So that means the two parties have their work cut out for them. MPP must go to their base and get them united and work for them. NDC must have people in their front line that are moderates, like we saw in 2008. They had 2 presidential candidates, both of whom were thought to be moderate. And so they were able to appeal to the moderate candidates. The MPP was having infighting in its party with 17 candidates, etc., etc. That situation led NDC to win 8 regions out of 10. Even there, Akufo-Addo was leading and needed 25% to just clinch the presidential, needed 25,000 votes out of 9 million people who had voted to clinch the presidential victory. He didn't get it. Okay, let's move on to 2020 and then we'll come back and do the analysis. Okay, so now this is 2020's map. Now it's 16 regions. Okay, let's see what happens. So NDC is green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Of the 16 regions in 2020, NDC actually win 9 regions. Yet they are defeated by 500,000. That's the data. So as I'm saying, we're not going to say all, but we are saying some so that you can analyze it yourself. So you will see from analyzing this data that NDC always need a core, the MPP always need their core votes to win. NDC need to have moderate people so they can bring other people who are neither NDC or MPP to add to their votes, and then they can cross the line and be elected as a political party. What happened at the stadium looks like they have gone for the radical. Let's look at the presidential ticket combination of the NDC now. Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman and John Dramani Mahama, they showed up at the stadium together, didn't they? And so we know that it's a ticket that President Mahama is still thinking about. Now, if you consider that the NDC has elected radicals, and get ready with Elvis Efue-Ankrah's photograph. I need to say something about him. If you consider that NDC has elected radicals, then you come and look at the presidential ticket. Would you consider them as radical, or will you consider them as moderate? John Dramani Mahama, the former president, would have started in 2008 on the running mate ticket as a moderate. Over the years, he has shifted from moderate to become core radical NDC. His support base right now is drawn from the radical NDC, which I can believe within the NDC will be more. For every political party, the radical group is always more. So that radical group within the NDC is where John Mahama is getting his strength from right now. Those who believe that it has been him and him alone, nothing else, nothing more, nothing else. I'll come back to the Victor Smith story and explain to you what Victor Smith is trying to challenge. We'll deal with that. So President Mahama, I will say that he's no longer a moderate, he's now a radical in the NDC. Let's shift to the running mate, but you can express your views as well. That's mine. You can express yours as well. Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman will be ordinarily seen as a moderate, a university professor, first female vice chancellor of Cape Coast University. All of that is giving her a moderate look. Even when she becomes Minister for Education under President Mahama, she's by and large moderate. The question is she still moderate such that she can draw the votes of those NDC people who don't like John Mahama, or those who are outside the NDC who are neither NDC or MPP? Will they vote for the ticket because of J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman? Does she stand in the same position as John Dramani Mahama was standing in 2008, where it was really obvious? It is still a case that the NDC's 2008 victory was largely occasioned by the inclusion of John Mahama on the ticket. There's a philosophy like that. There are people who believe in that. Some don't believe it, but it is a very competitive analysis. That theory is very, very competitive. That John Mahama's addition to the ticket was the reason why Professor Mills was able to cross the line in those difficult circumstances. So that the 25,000 votes that eluded Akufo-Addo to win 2008 election will be attributed to the presence of John Mahama on the ticket, because at that time he was thought to be moderate. Young people liked him. People who didn't like politics liked him. People who didn't like dirty politics liked him. People who thought politicians are insulting each other liked him, because he was the decent politician, moderate, put on the ticket by the Ahoy people, and all the right-thinking NDC members felt that going into this election, we have Professor Mills as a moderate, we need another moderate. There were those who thought that Professor Mills is a moderate, let's get a radical in there. And there were those who said, no. We already have enough. Let's get the moderates in and win this election. And that's what happened. Now, the question I'm leaving you with, viewers, is that J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman, would you consider her a moderate, or would you consider her a radical? If you give me the answer, then you can answer the question yourself. Let me say a few things now about one of the losers. If I both of them, let me say a few things about Elvis Efue-Ankrah as the losing candidate, and then I'll come back to the main story. So this is Elvis Efue-Ankrah. Now, the MPP are excited, I have to say. I believe they are, that Elvis is not here, because Elvis Efue-Ankrah is one of those people, you see. He's had tenacity with the process. I don't know what role Fifi Kwete would like to give him, but the NDC will be very worried if Fifi Kwete is thinking of Elvis as continuing in working in the election system. Now, if he were General Secretary of the party, he was going to give the Electoral Commission a big run for their money. Why? Because Elvis Efue-Ankrah has understood the election processes. He's showed tenacity with the process for a very, very long time. And he has started this from the beginning. He's one of those who you can call radical. but he's also one of those who you can call a moderate. Very interesting characterization of him. So he comes across like your Haruna Idrisu. You can call Haruna Idrisu an NDC radical. You can also call him a moderate. Mahama Yariga, he can be radical when he wants to be. He can also be a moderate. Not many politicians have that tendency, but you find that tendency a lot in the left-wing people. They are able to do that quite a bit. Now, Elvis is one of those. So there may be divisions of constituencies right now because they are thinking of adding districts. That's a detailed electoral commission process. They may be adding some more constituencies to the 275. I don't know. Many people are against it, but some people think that if you do the districts, you have to do it. They think Ghana is 30 million people, so if you have 300 members of parliament, it's okay. I don't know how that discussion is going to end, but it's going to be a process that's going to go through the legal process and the electoral commission process. Elvis, sitting in that process as the NDC's general secretary, would have been a mouthful for Bosman Asari and others to contend with, because he understands the process, and those processes, the election processes, are very, very critical to the outcomes of 2024's elections. So I guess tonight the NDC is sleeping because Elvis Afriankra is not there. Let's get to Samuel Ofosu Ampofo. Let me say something about him. What is it about Ofosu Ampofo? Ofosu Ampofo is thought also to be a moderate, you know, given his expressive Eastern Regional Minister work, local government work, chairman of Gapoha Port and all that, and given his general student activism, whilst he's considered a core member of the NDC ideological philosophy, he's an NDC ideologue. Ofosu Ampofo is that kind of person because of his church background and all of that, able to reach out to other people, being a Pentecost church elder and all, he's able to reach out to other people. So you actually call him a moderate. Now, there's no moderate in the national executive of the NDC. Johnson Asedun Ketia is particularly radical. Then you have Yamin, radical. Fifi Kwete, radical. Samia Jemfi, radical. John Mahama, radical. And Jenana Opoku-Agyeman, we don't know. My verdict is radical, but I don't know what your verdict is. That she has metamorphosed now to appeal to the radicals on the back of John Mahama's ticket. That's how I see it, but you can see it differently. So, yes, so they've elected all radicals at this stage. Now, let me tell you Victor Smith's problem. Victor Smith's problem was that they were hoping, I'll take the videos first. They were hoping that they will be able to deconstruct the John Mahama edifice. Victor Smith and his cohorts were hoping to return to the Mills-Rawlings kind of setup of the party. They didn't want the an establishment, the enhancement, the signature of John Dramani Mahama on the entire party. That's what Victor Smith was fighting. That's why he was fighting Asedun Ketia. Let's go back and listen to Victor Smith when he spoke in the studio about calling out Asedun Ketia and indicating that Asedun Ketia should be taken to court on the back of the NDC constitution. Here, Victor Smith.
Asedun Ketia was the chief executive of the party. He was there. Now say, we need penny for, and the papers need because John apologize for your frivolous petition.
Exactly. Yeah.
You are indicting a former president who was our flag bearer at the time. Why must you even go to the contest? Personally, Nese me paper and Kamako court on this one that Asedun Ketia cannot contest. He should be disqualified from the.
On what basis?
No, he should be sanctioned in the party.
On what basis?
No.
So what kind of credit, you know?
No kind of credit. The party's a constitution, Article 8. It says, and if you will permit me to read that one, it says, a party member may be subjected or may be made subject to party discipline for any of the following. 1, breach of any of the provisions of this constitution. 2, anti-party conduct. This is anti-party conduct. Or activities likely to embarrass the party or bring the party into hatred, ridicule, or contempt. He has done that. Forget about insubordination and negligence. The other one says unauthorized disclosure of confidential party information.
These are part of your rules and regulations in government.
Of the constitution, NDC constitution. You should be sanctioned. What he has done is a sanctionable offense by no less a person than the chief executive of our party. And a serious matter. The NDC delegates, but this man cannot take part in our elections, in my opinion. He should be sanctioned on no one, and if he wasn't contesting, let's say somebody went and spoke that. Was sanctioned as the chief executive.
So Victor Smith was concerned about establishing a certain Mahama hegemony. Let's, however, see whether he has a case. Let's go to the NDC constitution, the part that he was reading, to see whether he actually has a case against Johnson Asiedu Nketia. And it's going to be very, very interesting, because we know that Ofusu Ampofo also walked out of the Congress. President Mahama has a lot to do in putting it together. Okay, so here is the NDC constitution. Article 46 is entitled Party Discipline. And 46.8 is as follows. A party member may be subjected or may be subject to party discipline for any of the following. A, breach of any of the provisions of this constitution. B, anti-party conduct or activities likely to embarrass the party or bring the party into hatred, ridicule, or contempt. C, insubordination, that doesn't apply. D, unauthorized disclosure of confidential party information and any other act or omission likely to impact adversely on the effectiveness of the party's policies, programs, and strategies. Unauthorized disclosure is the point that Victor Smith may be making. What is he talking about? He's talking about Asiedu Nketia, the famous tape that we're going to keep reminding him of now that he's party chairman. We're going to ask him whether he wants to apologize. He's already indicated that he has nothing to apologize for, but we'll have to remind him, and we have to tell the court that Asiedu Nketia said that at the end of the day, he didn't know what he was talking about. So this is the story right now, the one that we can share with you for now. Let's go over to Dennis Miracles Aboagye, one of my favorite communicators. What Dennis has said. So Dennis put this on is it his Twitter page, I guess? He said, on a more serious note, considering the emotional roller coaster the National Democratic Congress took this whole country through and the security risks they pose to all of us, not to talk of the vilification of our most important arm of government, the judiciary, the NDC owes the citizens of this country the following. A, apology to the entire country for deceiving us on their claim of winning 2020 elections. B, apology to the honorable judges of the Supreme Court for insults and name-calling, so-called unanimous FC. 3, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to finally call and congratulate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for legitimately and fairly winning 2020 election. C, and then as for the NDC membership and followers of the NDC, I wish their hearts and emotions well. I don't think Broken Hearts has anything on any NDC member. That's a joke, I think. But that's what Miracles Aboagye put out. I think that what we can say about this is that, I mean, it is very, very unfair for the leadership of the NDC if when they were describing the Supreme Court as unanimous FC, they were aware that they had internal meetings, and Asiedu Nketia said that we'll play it. Today we don't have time. Thursday will come, we'll play it. If they were aware that they didn't have the results. Not that they were aware that they had lost. They were aware that they didn't have the results even to challenge what the Electoral Commission is saying, because according to Asiedu Nketia, Chairman Ofusu Ampofo brought somebody who was incompetent, and so after 4 regions, their system broke down. If President Mahama was aware of this, if Rojo Metelnunu was aware of this, if all those who were part of the court process were aware of this. In fact, Asiedu Nketia told us that Mr. Chikata told them that this will not fly in court. You don't have any evidence. What we can do as a strategy is to go in, try and get the Electoral Commission into the box and deal with it. That's a lawyer's advice, so you can't hold him for that. But the party officials, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the chairman, John Dramani Mahama, the presidential candidate, the election officials, Rojo Metelnunu, one of the core election officials, who were all in the EC strong room, contesting the results, and knew that in spite of the taxpayer paying for their polling agents in 275 constituencies and the taxpayer paying for every pink sheet in all the 38,000 polling stations to be delivered to them, they were unable to put a coalition results together. And they knew they couldn't because their system broke down. And yet they came to court to say that they had won and continued to vilify the judges, that they had been cheated by the court. That's a serious matter. That's a very, very serious matter. If high-profile senior officials were aware that they didn't have anything to challenge, they were aware. John Dramani Mahama, the former president, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the general secretary of the party, Samuel Ofusu Ampofo, the chairman of the party, Rojo Metelnunu, the election official of the party. All of these people were aware that they didn't have any basis. So you don't have any basis. You can go to court and lose. But beyond the court, to vilify the Supreme Court and call them unanimous FC, it's not just unfair, it's crass, it's very immoral as well, particularly immoral for top officials to do that. And I think that the whole civil society in Ghana needs to come to a certain conclusion on this matter. I heard somebody on Joy FM, a lawyer, talk about how the Attorney General should cite Johnson Asiedu Nketia for perjury before the Supreme Court because he's thought to have lied under oath. Because when he took the oath in the court, he was well aware that there's nothing. So civil society must let us address this matter. So next time we have an election, we have the basis on which somebody can challenge the election with the election petition. So I think that works. That works. On the basis of that, we will go and see our NDC montage, and then we will bring the NDC story to a close and take some calls and text messages from all of you. What you think? We may have time to talk about Lionel Messi. Congratulations to the NDC for a successful Congress. Here's the montage.
Arise for Ghana, affection of the land, forward and seek your future, development our God, from vision to victory, the NDC shall lead, stable democrat, Ghana. Our strength in unity, from vision to victory, the NDC shall lead, stable democrat, Ghana, our strength in unity. Eja bana It's our land. Victory is our land. JJ is a winner. Arise for Ghana, of the truck of the land, forward and secure future, development our goal, from vision to victory, the NDC shall lead, stable democrat, Ghana, our strength in unity.
All right, let's take the text messages and see what people are saying about our analysis. What are people saying?
Alex Tufo watching from Hamburg, Germany says, thanks, Paul, for your analysis and facts. Even though I always wake up early in the morning to go to work, I can't sleep without listening to your program. And then Nana Ofori says, brains is working here. David Osofo Mensa is saying, Mr. Lecturer, I am here to get some valuable education. Keep it up, sir. Coming from Bennett Danso, he says, Paul, I want to say that radicalism doesn't win elections in any democracy. The NDC should heed to the MPP solidarity message, declaring their intention to establish a faculty in their party school to teach them how to properly and accurately collate election results. J.O.B. is saying, very educative analysis. And lastly, from Isaac K. Opoku, I predict there will be lots of defamation suits on NDC executive, as almost all of them are fond of making wild allegations. Annette?
So coming from the University of Education, Winneba, Alidu Omar says, Paul, whether the NDC executives are radicals or moderates, we don't care about it. What we know is that Dr. Digital Bawumia is going to be our next president come 2025, Inshallah. Master Planner Junior Kintampo says, Chairman Asiedu Nketia and his NDC should sit at the beach and watch how the economic Messi, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the economic Di-Maria, Dr. Bawumia, will win the World Cup for Ghana. Also coming from Akwesi Ademola Sapon, there is not any pressure on NDC to win 2024. They will win regardless of their leadership. Therefore, there is the need for radicals to make sure the elections results aren't rigged. Edward Abadole says, 2024 elections, MPP will just use the Sasso mosquito spray to spray general mosquito. That is all. And lastly, from Nana Ofori, brains is working here. Over to you, Karen.
Owusu says, Paul, you are too good with your career. Paul Messi, goat of late evening political TV shows. Dash says, wow, Paul, you know them by their deeds. Joshua Edfu says, brilliant analysis. Okay, it would be very good if we could come up with right versus left debates devoid of NDC and MPP playing games. We intend to stand for parliamentary elections and also help other independent youth candidates as well. We intend to make parliament face to reflect the truth representation of the nation. Majority in parliamentary would be a thing in the past very, very soon. Ni Kwaku. Thank you.
Mame Kennedy watching us from Agboba says, good evening, Paul. Well done to you and your team. May the soul of Dr. Kwesi Botchwey rest in perfect peace. Abdul Zati watching us from Bolgatanga says, I'm long awaiting the NDC Congress. Congratulations to General Mosquito, though, but he should look, I think he means they should not look down upon the former chairman of Fosu Ampofo and the administration that he was in. In the history of the NDC, there is no administration that had done well like Ampofo led the administration do. Achievements: 1. Almost a tied parliament. 2. Opposition housing the parliament. 3. Captured more orphan seats. So General Mosquito should rather look up to his administration and see whether he can compare himself to that. However, radicalism would never get a space in the upcoming 2024 elections. Derek Boahen from Tema says, good evening, Paul. Your lawsuit will bring heart attack tonight. The young man just dropped news that he made about you that the real sources, and he mentions a certain Kevin. He says someone else also tweeted the same thing. Now, Kamal Amasama Bruni says, he says, before that, he says, your lawsuit will bring heart attack tonight. The young man just dropped the news he made about you that the real sources, and he named someone who is the real source. And then
he named the sources of his information.
Yeah, the
young man.
Yes.
But what name did he mention? They should tell us.
If I can mention it on air.
Yeah, you can check on him later on. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Or you can do that now as we continue the program. Let me when you got it.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So okay, somebody said you gave a brilliant presentation, provided absolute clarity on the way the thing will go. We need a Baumia versus Alan ticket. Oh, he's asking questions about you, Mikael. He says, this is your guy reading. Has he just landed from the UK? Have you just come from the UK?
No.
Okay.
Right here.
Good evening, PMC. Thank you very much for your text message. Another person says that this one, dear, I will use as DP. What can come. Hey. Okay, all right. Okay, so we go on. You are still checking, eh? When you get to let us know. Instead, it's 10:37. That means what? I always remember Tommy and Force when I'm going to say the time on TV. So Tommy will say, you say what? 23 minutes to the top of the hour at 11. You don't say 10:37. He will knock your head when you do that. And he used to knock our heads when we did that. That's why sometimes I get concerned about the kind of training we got as news reporters in the media. The kind of things we see today on internet is somebody just puts up something, no training, nothing. He starts, Duncan Williams is not sensible. Then everybody's watching him. Oh, Dr. Otabel is not sensible. Everybody's watching him. Oh, Paul Ademoche is a thief. Oh, Chief Justice Eniye is this. He has stolen that. And then people are watching him. You sue him, he's hiding in Connecticut or something like that. You know, he doesn't want to come to Ghana. That's really not good for our country. It's not good for the youth of our country. We can disagree, but let's do the analysis. Let's come to our conclusions with analysis. So somebody can call me and say that your analysis is wrong and the analysis is correct. Was it on Friday or so? I spoke to Sami Jemfia on phone. Yes, that will surprise you, but we spoke about the things we talk about. So I don't agree with his politics. He doesn't agree with mine, but I will come to the conclusion and say, Sami, you are wrong on this because of this and that and that. The other day, I had a very long conversation with Sami Okujeto, Blackwell, and Kwesi Pratt, way in Kwesi Pratt's place. We had a 3-hour conversation. You will think we are fighting because we're arguing it out. Because I argue my point. They are left wing, I'm right wing. We're always going to have an argument. But that argument and whatever conclusion we come to must come out of analysis. It's not Hey, Paul Adumoche is a thief. Hey, this man is a fool. It's people who don't want to do the hard intellectual work. They do these things. They get on. Somebody is a fool, and somebody is that. They don't take their paper and pen and do the work. So let's encourage. I mean, you cannot stop them from doing their media, some mushroom media thing. You can't stop them from doing it. It's a democracy. They are also important. Somebody who doesn't have a voice can talk to them and say, I'm being squeezed here. I don't have a voice. And they can bring that out. That's okay. When they abuse that process into insulting people and trying hard to get prominence without hard work, that's where sometimes the problem is. Anyway, so we have, it's now 20 minutes on top of the hour at 10 o'clock. You have some messages more, so we move on to the next topic. Okay, so let's hear you, and then I'll be talking about my favorite minister, viewers. My favorite female minister is Osla Owusu. You know what she did? I'll show you on the touch screen. Osla Owusu ordered yam, for Christmas, for her constituency from the northern region. The yams came plenty, as we used to say in Presec, it came chapu. And the people are buying it in Ablekuma West constituency. I'll show you how that is happening. I've deliberately not spoken about the economic situation in Ghana. And somebody said that at the NDC Congress on Saturday, everybody had to change their speech because, these speeches are written 3 days, 4 days, one week ahead. For someone like President Mohammed's speech, it will be written 10 days ahead and they'll be updating it. That they had to change their speech and remove the dollar rate, because it was appearing in everybody's speech. Omar was going to talk about it. Asidu Kete was going to talk about it. Chairman of Uzampa was going to talk about it. I understand that they all had to circle that part in the speech and cancel it quietly and humbly. But still early days yet for us to make a determination whether the government has solved any problem. So let's keep our eyes on the ball and see. I call Ministry of Finance almost every day. Yesterday, I was speaking to Ruth, and we're updating ourselves. When we have enough information with a clear trajectory, we'll be able to come to you. We have delayed because Parliament was rising. They were looking at the budget, so we didn't get all the information we needed, but we're still looking. Yes, Eunice, what do you have?
Jema Rollins Bayaka is saying, from Sinyani Paul, carry out with a good work and ignore the negative energies coming from the NDC folks. Okoto Rasta Mauli is saying, good evening, Paul. You are doing a great job. Keep it up. My greetings to my OT region chairman, Dapa. Akoto Emmanuel Ado says, oh, my brother, don't worry about those infantile minds. God will surely deal with them. It's just like the battle is the Lord's, which is dealing with the detractors. Coming from Etro Amwa, he says, Paul should only close when the show gets more interesting. We need more time for this great show. And lastly, from Alhaji Bob Sidi, he says, Assalamu alaikum, Paul. Thank God it's Tuesday, and as usual, I pray the Almighty Allah continue to bless you, and good evening, Ghana. Greetings from Old Tafo constituency and to mine MP, a call Vincent Asifo Annette. Messages?
Yeah, so Nana Akwesi Ajiman says, Paul, please do add nominal figures in the map analysis from 1992 to 2020. I am saying so because about half of the regions in Ghana have less than 1 million registered voters, with regions like Ashanti region, Eastern region, Greater Accra region having over 2 million registered voters each. Winning, say, 6 or 8 or 9 regions not enough to win elections in Ghana. This is my humble opinion. So Tamale Sabonjila says, the NDC is not a political party running on sound policies and principles. I find it intriguing that Ghanaians have some hope in them. From Ochiman Kwesi Pondero, a party of radicals is the NDC. Lastly, from Dibaba Taylor, the NDC can't win election in 2024. So whether they bring in John Mahama and Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman tickets or not, the NPP has performed massively, and so Ghanaians will help NPP to break the 8. Also from Emmanuel Ado, oh my boss, you are too good on the analysis. Don't mind the detractors. Please, we beg you to stand for election as MP at Ejusu for NPP to excel at Parliament. Over to you, Karen.
Okay. Nia Richmond says, I love you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Nana Ado.
Right. So this is from Mary Gorithia Kumasi, and she says, good evening, Paul. God bless you for the good work you are doing. Oh, may the soul of Dr. Boche rest in peace. And back to that message from earlier, Derek Boahene from Tema. He said, your lawsuit will bring heart attack tonight. The young man just dropped the news he made about you that the real source is Kevin Taylor. Bongo Ideas also retweeted the same thing.
Is this what the source of his wrong information?
Yes.
Yeah, but the name is mentioned. He doesn't live in Ghana, so when we sue him, he has to come and When we see him, he has to come and answer it. He should call him to come and answer to help him, or he has to remove it from his page. Otherwise, unfortunately, we like young people, but we may have to set the record straight on some of these ones. Okay, we do have a commercial break, isn't it? We have a commercial break coming up right now, and we have to talk about Lionel Messi and Argentina winning the World Cup. The last time Argentina won the World Cup was in 1986, and we watched that football match on black and white television. I think color had come 85, and it had not completely spread to the whole country. So I remember watching a lot of that in 86 on black and white TV, and then in 87 we saw the playback of the same games in color. We saw Argentina wearing blue and white, what we saw as black and white. And Germany, it was West Germany in 1986, they were black and white. So when we saw them in color, it was the same black and white, but it was nicer black and white, you know. And that game also ended 3-2. And a lot of us who have loved Argentina and Maradona, we love them from that World Cup. Those whose first World Cup was if your first World Cup was 1978, and that's why Argentina has so many supporters. If your first World Cup was 1978 or 82 or 86, you would love Argentina. In 1978, Argentina won the World Cup in their home country, Buenos Aires, with Mario Kempes. In 1982, they introduced 18-year-old Maradona to the World Cup. They went to the semi-final of the World Cup or quarter-final. Maradona was red-carded because he kicked a defender who was brutally booting him back and forth. Maradona was red-carded. 18-year-old Diego Maradona had already been introduced to the world, and everyone was waiting to see how 86 turns out. After 1982, he was signed on by Barcelona in Spain, and he led them to many title victories. And then in 1986, he showed up at the World Cup, 20-something, and oh my goodness, that was a player. Diego Maradona, they won the World Cup for Argentina in 1986. And all of us who were toddlers, young people at the time, under below age 10, a little over age 10, we were excited by the sounds from the television, Argentina, Maradona. And if you watch, 1990 was your first World Cup. Then again, you will fall in love with Argentina. They lost the opening game of the 1990 World Cup to Cameroon, thankfully. We were all very excited, but Diego Maradona carried the team back into the final. And this is the first time that United Germany came to the final, no longer West Germany, but Germany, as it were. And they came to the final and defeated Argentina on penalties. So Argentina had been the World Cup story 78, 82, 86, 1990. From 78 to 1990, Argentina had been an important part of the World Cup story. 1994, Argentina were the story again. What was the 1994 story? Argentina beat Nigeria in their second group game by 2-1. The first turnout of Argentina indicated to me that Argentina can win this World Cup. Diego Maradona was in his twilight period, as Messi is this year, and Claudio Caniggia, the striker, had come up, and it was a great Argentine side. What happened in that tournament? Why did Argentina become the story? After the second round game, Maradona was banned for drug abuse. It was said that a drug test conducted on the Argentina team has found Diego Maradona guilty of a drug test, and Maradona was exited from the World Cup. It was widely believed by many conspiracy theorists that this was done so that Brazil can win the World Cup, because Brazil could tell that Argentina and Maradona was going to be a thorn in their flesh. That World Cup was held in the United States, and Brazil duly won it. In 1994. 1998, Argentina didn't show up much, and in 2002, not much of Argentina. 2006, not much. Then in 2010, they showed up strong in the South Africa World Cup, coached by Diego Maradona and captained by Lionel Messi. Many gave Argentina an outside chance to win that World Cup. It didn't happen. In 2014, Argentina were in the World Cup final against Germany again. So Argentina and Germany have played 86 World Cup final, 1990 World Cup final, and 2014 World Cup final. Now, Argentina won 86, Germany won 1990, and Germany won the 2020. So we can have enough time to talk about football today if there is time. They're already showing me 5 minutes to go. Here is our final commercial break.
The world has gathered for football's greatest showpiece, and Betway is giving you the chance to win on the cup in Qatar. Score free entries to win a share of 3 million Ghana cedis across the tournament. Enter our daily draws to win a guaranteed 30,000 Ghana cedis every match day. From the group stages to the final, it's a full month of incredible action. Only at betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
There are days when you think, whoa, today I've earned it. So order a Glovo. Days when plans run longer. Or days when you can't control everything. Oh yes, Glovo. You order, we deliver.
A state-of-the-art facility built with your family needs in mind. A medical center positioned for all your fertility problems and other diseases. Medimosis Clinic and Prostate Center. Our goal is to help our patients achieve and maintain optimal health. We have fully functional OPD laboratories in all our branches. Do you have problems urinating? Medimosis is the ultimate solution. Our Prostacure X capsules and Prostacure Herbal Tea treat prostate problems. Afromosis capsules gives you maximum performance, and for the ladies, Femacure X capsules solves all your menstrual problems. Locate Medimosis Clinic and Prostate Center at Adenta Barrier near the traffic light, Ashaman Ajekojo, Kumasi Ahinima Kokobing, and in Accra, Ministries after the Ghana Highways Yard. Call 0244 068 447. We accept National Health Insurance card and all other private insurance card. Medimosis Clinic and Herbal Center, your ultimate solution for prostate problems.
Okay, welcome back to the show, and thank you very much for your time, and thank you also for joining us to watch. Some people are asking me to bring back the NDC montage. I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back in a minute. Okay, let's get the text messages first. Text messages.
Watch it from Canada, and Rafat Hussein says, congratulations to the greatest of all times, the Lord, Messi and Argentina. Messi is the greatest player to have kicked the football. Mohamed Sheikh Toure says, good evening, Paul. I am from Sierra Leone, watching your intellect and wise analysis. Good job. And lastly, from Yaya Mohamed Gambo, he says, good evening, Ghana, my favorite evening program. Annette?
Okay, so coming through from Kwesi Kakraba, he says, because of greed, General Chairman disgraced the NDC. Why? Because he still wanted to be at the national leadership level and continue to milk the NDC. Alidu Omar says, Paul, in fact, Esla Owusu is one of the radical MPs in Parliament, but not in the MPP. By the way, I admire her so much. Alidu watching live from UEW main campus. Master Planner Junior Kintampo says, the New Patriotic Party is the only political party that can transform this country. If we make a mistake and vote for these WrestleManians, Ghanaians will laugh at the wrong side of their mouth. NDC, never again. And lastly, from Rafat Hussein Gunu, Apostle Paul, you're right. The CD bullied them, NDC, at their own Congress, and guess what? They had an interrupted power supply at the stadium. It was powered by the NPP. Let's break the 8. Over to you, Karen.
Good evening, Paul. You are not just good with political analysis, but sports and entertainment as well. I just love to hear and learn from you all the time, sir. Congratulations to Messi and Argentina. Greetings to my brother, Roderick, at La Paz, for always prompting me to watch Good Evening, Ghana. This is from Eddie Bryan. Okay.
Kamal Amasaman Brody says it's good that the Serin Ketia has openly told Ghanaians that they had insufficient evidence prior to their going to the Supreme Court. Hence, Ghanaians will take them seriously again because the MPP will surely break the 8. Okay. Now, this is from Alhaji Bob Sidian. He says, Paul, I'm an Argentina fan and happy they won the World Cup, but I'm not a Messi fan. The noise about Messi being the GOAT is a non-starter. CR7 is the best and the GOAT of our time. That's quite true. I bring you greetings from Old Tafo constituency and to my MP, Honorable Eko Vincent Asifua, a.k.a. Tafo Kufo. Back to you, Paul.
Vincent is my man too, isn't it? This Messi and Ronaldo debate, I think we have to have it here and try and get some understanding about it. I will be Ronaldo because of Manchester United, and and philosophically, I like Ronaldo. Ronaldo is closer to Maradona than Messi is. Messi doesn't talk that much. He's a great footballer. He doesn't talk that much. He doesn't represent any real views. Ronaldo is. You saw how he put Coca-Cola out and put water on. He's an opinion leader. I like people who use their skills and leadership to guide opinion into the right direction. He said we should stop drinking Coke and drink water. We have not stopped drinking Coke, though. We are trying to stop and drink water. But we know that what he's saying was correct, you see. All right. Okay. So somebody says, good evening, sir. Great analysis as always. Thank you very much. One thing is certain. Integrity is missing in the midst of those who conspire to deceive the whole nation and run down the Supreme Court. God save our nation from the hands of these power-drunk politicians. Well, I don't know whether it's fair to call them power drunk or not, but let's go to the touch screen. Let me celebrate Asla Owusu, our Minister for Communication and Digitalization. Hey, madam, how are you, man? She's my favorite minister. You know, I like people who are straightforward. Asla is straightforward. It's blue is blue, it's white is white, it's red is red. She doesn't do that kind of thing. So that's why I like her. She's very straightforward. Okay, so let's put the photographs up of what she did. Now, you know that the Ministry of Agriculture is doing something about food and all that, but UTV websites show this. Now, this is what she's done. There you see her in the photo. She brought this tubers of yam, paid for it to come from the north to her constituency in this Christmas week so that her constituents will take it home. These are some of her constituents who are taking the yam home at Blekuma West. She brought them yam. See how excited this guy is. But the guy is holding 2 yam. Is it not? This guy is wearing something like the Presec shirt, but it's not that. Anyway, so these are people from a constituency who are very excited that the Minister for Communication and Digitalization, frustrated by the excessive prices of yam in Accra compared to the prices of yam in the north, decided to load a truckload of yam in the north. And as she says, she's going to be continuing to do that. These are all the yams that came from the north. Honorable Asla Owusu Ekuful, who gave it to a constituency. Oh, wow. But the guy is not carried too many. Hey, but he's not smiling. It means that the guy has meant the business. But, oh, okay. So he's also a member of the constituency. I think that this is the last photograph. So congratulations to, I like this one. I think that this is my photograph of the day. I really like this. So the photographer captured it really, really well. And this is Madam Asla Owusu Ekuful's constituency. Let's congratulate her. Leadership by example. This is the minister. Please put a photograph back. Let me congratulate her. And then we'll be ending. Leadership by example, conducted by Asla Owusu Ekuful. Madam, excellent job. Excellent job. I like her spectacles. You know, the purple in her spectacles is matching the purple in her kaba. Can you imagine? All right. Forever young. That's very, very good work. Congratulations, Asla Owusu Ekuful, Member of Parliament for Blekuma West and Minister for Digitalization. That's excellent work. And we are continuing to see a lot of these things happening as the Minister of Agric is also working on it. What is leadership? So, the other day, somebody told us, we don't know how to wake up human beings, but we know how to bring the economy back to life. Somebody told us the other day, he told us in 2020. He said, Ghanaians, I don't know how to wake up human beings when they die. I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm not the prophet Elijah. I can't wake up human beings when they die. As for economy, when they mess it up, we will bring it back. How do I know that? Because in 2016, they left it at 3.4. We inherited. We did well. This is a crisis. This shall pass. We'll get there. We'll turn it around. Let's see what happens. Is the government on the path to turn the economy around? We don't know yet. It's too early. Okay. Text messages and then we can wrap it up. One each if you have it.
Okay.
What is the difference of changing defender to goalkeeper and striker to bench? I only see the NDC team as same in 2016 and 2020. Change Bia Nimu. My greetings to Honorable Hawakumsin MP. And Doreen Bote from Nungwa says, Apostle Paul, you're a great historic teacher. The leaders in the NDC have elected are very violent. They're going to lose 2024. Okay, that's a bit harsh. Back to you guys over there.
Paul, isn't it the same Wonder Victor Couture who was impeached as SLC president of Ghana School of Law earlier this year for various issues of misappropriation, embezzlement, etc., who have been elected executive member of the NDC? Wow, how could they clear him to run? NDC keeps nurturing characters. shaking my head. Nene Manuel Awesome says, Paul, good evening. NDC has nothing under their sleeves to offer the Ghanaians autumn. Paul, good evening. Watching live from Edmonton, Canada, Gilbert Echo Dazi. Someone Anakwefu Abenche says, I like the critical analysis made on the radicals as against the moderates. Paul, you are indeed a professional. Keep it up. Kukubuaten, Paul, you are changing the face of analytical and factual journalism. Lastly, from Eric, what a solid and intellectual analysis from the brilliant Apostle Paul. Sir Paul, you are just too much. Over to you.
Very impressive from Isa Aminu. And then Tilly William is saying hello. Lincoln Dawana says, you are good, Paul. And lastly from Samuel Ajiman, he says, Paul, please tell Baumia to slow down on dollar. Bloggers are worried. Do you have any for us?
Akufo-Addo can't bring back the economy to life. Ghana is broke. Edward. Good evening, everyone. I'm watching from Accra, East Legon, Secret Light of Symbols. Yes.
Okay, so that's about it for Good Evening Ghana. It's exactly 11 o'clock. I'm delighted that we have been able to put all our content together for the 1 hour 15 minutes that we started broadcasting at 9:10. It's 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching. It's been the Christmas season, aren't we? On Sunday is Christmas Day, celebrating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. And on Friday is 23rd when the events begin, and on Saturday is 24th. We have come all the way from January until now. Let's keep it safe, let's keep it tight, let's keep it cool, and have a wonderful Christmas. We'll be back here on Thursday for our last edition of the program before the Christmas season. Thanks for watching. Good night.